Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. So many of us parents are stuck in the past. I know in my daughter's early childhood, so much of my mind was consumed with regret and about things I should have done yesterday and the weeks before or years before, and I wasn't really present. Much of my work in conscious parenting is about helping parents release their past and enter the time zone of the present moment, because that's where children live. Coming up next, a mother who's feeling guilty about the time she didn't spend with her son during his early years. When I look back at my parenting, there's so many moments that I feel like I wasn't present for. I just miss them. There are vast chunks of my daughter's life that I honestly feel I was in a haze of fatigue and exhaustion and work pressure. It's so easy for us parents to feel like we've missed out on vital moments of our children's lives, and that's what my next guest is experiencing. Joining me now is Erica. She's a military veteran, and her job led her to be away from her son's life for big chunks of time, and now she feels like she's missed out on key moments of her 15-year-old son's life. Hi, Erica. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So explain to me in your own words what you're feeling a struggle around.
So one of the things that I feel a struggle around is really connecting more with my son. I do believe that me and him, we do have a good relationship, but now he's in those teenage years and I'm trying to connect with him. And I'm also feel like I do overcompensate for the time that I did miss in his life. During my time in service, I was in the Air Force for 12 years. I deployed about 4 times, so I missed his second birthday. I missed part of his 3rd year life. I missed part of his kindergarten year and also part of his 3rd grade year. So I missed out on a lot of key moments that I'm trying to overcompensate for. And I feel a little bit of guilt because of that.
I'm sure it's so hard for us parents, especially working mothers, because we're doing the best we can. I mean, you couldn't be in 2 places at the same time. So now you're feeling guilty. And so now when you try to connect, how does he show you that he's not connected?
Sometimes I feel that he shows me that he's not connected. I would say by the way he maybe respond to things, that he may see that, hey, you weren't really there during certain parts. I feel like there's like a disconnect sometime. And it could be because he is growing up and he's becoming a man. And, I'm the mother that I could maybe be a little bit overbearing. And then sometimes also, when I do see that he may be getting off the track, I may be a little more serious and a little bit more stern with him. And he's just like disconnecting from me and not really trying to connect as much.
Well, here's the thing. See, when we as adults, as parents, are consumed by a guilt, it's like we blame everything on that guilt. You know what I mean? So he could be just a regular 15-year-old who is annoyed by his mother or rebelling, against your over control. And that may be something for you to look at. But in your mind, because you're so guilty, you take everything back to, oh my goodness, I wonder if this is because he's so upset with me. I wonder if this is because I wasn't there in 2nd grade or I missed his school play. And you're taking everything back there. Now, I'm not saying that did not have an effect, but by your feeling guilty about the past, you're ruining your present moment, right? So the first thing we have to do is that you have to become comfortable with the fact that you did the best you could given your life circumstance, given your consciousness. And you have to reframe I wasn't there for him, which is a fact, but reframe it for yourself to, I was really trying to provide for him, so I was trying to be there in the best way I could, right? You were still there, you just weren't there in the way he may have needed you to be there. And why do I say it's important to reframe? Because if we keep beating ourselves down, then the present moment gets completely confused and obfuscated and blocked from connection because you're so consumed by guilt, you're not here right now.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that, because I think that's where I go back to, is the moments that I weren't there. And I'm like, I want to give him the best life. I want him to have the best outcome that he can have. So it's like I'm trying my best to, okay, what are the things that you're into? Let me get behind you on those things. Okay, college is coming up. All right, let me get behind you there and make sure your grades look good. Make sure we're doing all the planning that we need to do. I totally agree, because I definitely can say that I do go back to those moments that I wasn't there. And I'm like, I need to make up for lost time.
Correct. So now your making up for lost time is through over hovering or overcompensating or overdoing everything you listed right now. Let's get your grades on track. Let's make sure you're doing all the things you want to do. All that performance is not real emotional connection. If you really want to connect, you have to let him know that you're always remembering that you may have hurt him and you're well aware and you acknowledge the pain. And number two, you are here now in your presence, in your availability, in your trust of him, in your empowerment of him. But that doesn't mean you have to become a doaholic, right? Keep doing and doing and doing. That's why he's probably disconnected from you, because you're like, okay, I missed your first few years. Let's make it an amazing next 10 years. And you're looking at him like some project, right? Like you are again almost military style commending this childhood. And children don't like commanders. They don't like sergeants. They want us to be present in our hearts. And maybe you've been someone who's been such a doer, such an achiever. I mean, you were in the military. That takes a real strong kind of personality. Maybe he needs a more soft touch, a more relaxed attitude. So let me ask you, do you think you are a laid-back, relaxed, easygoing mother? Or do you think you're like on the go, on the job kind of mom?
I feel like I'm a little bit of both. I'm learning how to be a little bit more laid back, a little bit more nurturing as well. But I also do have that serious side where I'm like, okay, did you get this done? Did you do this? Where are we next on this? And then he's also, have extracurricular activities. And, I'm like, okay, we have to go here. We have to do this. Did you see what your coach said? Did you see what these people say? And I'm trying to make sure he stays on track as well. So sometimes I can be a little bit militant.
I think when our kids grow older, they need us to begin walking by their side, not in front of them, and then slowly get behind them. And I think because you missed the first years and you're so guilty about it, you are overdoing the leadership now, overdoing the doing, because you are making up for lost time. But this is not the age to be an overdoer with our children. No teenager likes a sort of militant mom or a overbearing helicopter type of parent, because teenagers need to find their own way. And if we come down hard on them, especially if we're guilty about making up for lost time and let's rush and let's really show them that I'm here, oh my goodness, they're going to run away from us. And maybe that's what your teenager is trying to communicate. Mom, like, I got it. You cannot make up for those early years now. You see, the early years are not in the present moment. So we have to attune to what our child needs now instead of working from our guilt. Because when we work from guilt, we miss the signs that our children are trying to communicate because we're so consumed by assuaging and calming our own guilt. Right? So you have to ask yourself next time, every time you're with your son, wait a second, is this my guilt talking? Or is this something my child really needs from me? And doing that inner work, reflection, pausing, will allow you to begin to discern, does my child need me in this way right now? Or is this just me trying to overcompensate because I'm guilty?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely can see that and understand that. And I love the way that you put it because it's like, I do believe that there are times where I do show up in the guilt instead of in the present. So I think that's things that I will be definitely working on to make sure I'm showing up more in the present and not from what has happened in the past where I wasn't able to be there for those moments that he had.
Exactly. And reframe for yourself, because I think you're hard on yourself. The reason we're hard on our children is because somewhere we're hard on ourselves. But if you begin to have more self-care and compassion for why you went to the military, why you were not there, and not just operate out of this robotic habitual guilt, you will soften. You didn't do this because you were, loving being away from your son. You did it because at that time, and I'm projecting, but I'm pretty sure, you did it because you felt that was what you needed to do for the family, for the income, for the job you had, and you didn't know any better back then. So when you have compassion for yourself, your guilt will calm down. And when your guilt calms down, then you won't ride yourself so much to ride your son so much. And then your son will be more easygoing around you. I always tell parents the reason why our teenagers run from us is because they sense our overperforming. They sense that we're looking at them as the next project to work on, as somebody to order around, and teenagers don't like that. So when mommy is relaxed, when mommy is calm, then teenagers around mommy feel much better and they come toward you instead of running away from you. So I think your teenager is inviting you to release that guilt. I think it's time that you let that go.
Definitely. I believe that is something that I'm going to work on so that way I can, definitely parent him better and really show up for him now. Because when I think about it, I just technically have 3 more years with him before he's an adult. So I'm trying to make sure I have so many moments and so many memories with him. And, when you think about it, I'm like, man, 3 more years and he's going to be technically out of the house, going to college or making his own way and impact in this world. And I think about that too, because it just seems like the 15 years have just flown on by. And I'm like, oh my God, that's still my little baby at the end of the day.
Well, here's the thing, right? Again, because you feel you missed out on the baby years, because you feel you weren't present so much. Now you're trying to make up for lost time and you're shoving all these things into these next 3 years because now you're afraid of the future. So you're in the past, worried about what you missed, looking into the future, worried that there's not enough time. And you are riding yourself and your child too much. You cannot make up for what has gone, and you cannot compensate for what you imagine will come. You're not here, and being here now means allowing your teenager to maneuver the space according to his choice. And if you push it too hard and you're not attuned with your teenager, he or any teenager will disconnect because mommy is working from the past, the guilt of the past, and the anxiety about the future. And both of them are things that our teenagers, absolutely repel from, and they don't gravitate toward. So you're creating this chaos within yourself that is translating to your son, and he is moving away from you because of that. He's not moving away from you because you weren't there in the past. He's moving away because you're overdoing it in the present.
Absolutely. And I have definitely had a conversation with him, and I say, I definitely have missed some times in your life. Like, what are your feelings toward that? And he said, I know you had to do what you had to do because that was a part of your job. That was a part of what you were supposed to have to do. He said, I really don't feel any way about it. And he's really like happy with, I guess how things are going, but he does want me to be a little bit, I guess, less overbearing and also having more of a connection with him. So he's not even thinking about what happened in the past. He's in the present.
Exactly. I always say children are the gurus of the present, but we live in the time zone of the past and in the time zone of the future. So which time zone are you in? You have to keep asking yourself, which time zone am I in? Where am I right now? Am I in the past or am I in the future? And enter the present moment. It sounds like your son is more than fine, but mommy isn't fine.
Yes, mommy got to get it together with the guilt. So
we
definitely.
always do. We always do. Thank you so much for being here. You've been a delight. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
As I was speaking with Erica, I really resonated with her desire to connect with her son. So many of us feel like we've missed out and we just so badly want to bond with our children. But what we forget is in our longing to bond, we may come across as overbearing, as over-dominating, and actually misattuning with where our children are in the present moment. And when we disconnect from the present moment with our children, they sense it, and then they withdraw. And then we set off a cycle, a pattern of a dysfunctional relationship. So we always need to be mindful of whether we are coming to the present moment with guilt or lack or scarcity, because that will block our ability to truly align with where our children are. Coming up next, a mother of 2 toddlers who says that every time they scream or fight, it's so hard for her that she wants to disappear. Every parent is going to relate to my next guest because she is dealing with 2 toddlers who can make her anxious and make her want to disappear. Here's Agatha. Tell us what's going on with you.
Hi. I'd say that ever since me and my boys have entered the toddlerhood, I have started experiencing a lot of fear in me. And it was about their big emotions. It wasn't fear in general, it's just big emotions. And as we all know, toddlerhood is basically built on big emotions, right? There's like big emotions about everything. And when they happen, there's screaming, yelling, ridiculousness, it's just chaos. I started noticing this fear in me. I remembered the times when I was going to pick them up from daycare and I would have those stomach cramps or something like that. And I was like, what is going on? And then I remembered, okay, they're gonna get to the car or not. And the chaos will unravel. And then I'm gonna be scared. So after a while, I'm in your institute. So I've done a lot of work and it's been so much better than it was some time ago. And I noticed that this fear is a thief for me. It steals from me every day because it takes me away to my past and it takes me to the future, in this like magical world when my kids don't scream, they just communicate. So obviously that just takes me from the present moment, which I do want. I want to be there for them, because I don't want to miss it out. And I feel like it makes me miss out a lot. So yeah, there's this fear. I know where it came from.
Yes. So let me ask you, because you're so expressive and articulate, tell us in few lines where you think this fear came from, because parents who are listening, first, they're going to be so impressed by how articulate you are. And I love that you're one of my students in my coaching institute. But you're showing parents that you are working on yourself, you're aware of your issues, and you're trying to get the help. And I want every parent out there listening to know that you're not alone. Even though Agatha is in my institute, she's working on herself, she's still in the midst of her issues, and that's okay. We're all in this together. Listen, parenting is one of the hardest things we will ever do, and it brings up all our stuff from the past. And like Agatha, you too may be struggling, but like her, you too can learn how to work through the struggle. So Agatha, what have you discovered in a few lines about where this fear is coming from?
Okay. From my very early childhood, because my parents were horrible at handling big feelings. I would actually say the big feelings were handling my parents.
Yes.
So they would use all kinds of these toxic tools like screaming, yelling, belittling, being mean, cursing, throwing things, smashing things. So for a young child that I was, it just created this very, very unsafe environment. And that's when the fear was born. And when my children were born, the fear came just,
Here's the thing though, Agatha. Your parents were toddlers.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I always say many of us adults are toddlers in tuxedos and ball gowns. Your parents were exactly the same energy that your two toddlers are now. So at least you can have compassion that you're not the crazy one. You're not a bad parent. You are reliving the trauma of having lived through this with adults in the past. But here's the thing, right? Our real toddlers, the children you have right now, they are actually normal. They are actually healthy. They are doing what they need to do. And your parents were stuck in toddler energy because their parents didn't help them to work through what your toddlers need you to help them to work through. You see? So now we get to break the pattern. We get to break the pattern in the present moment. But we know why you're terrified. So if we go back, to the ancestors, your parents were not helped when they were toddlers, and they had parents who weren't helped by their parents. So now here we are, 3 generations later, Agatha and her toddlers. Toddlers are freaking out. She's remembering her past. She's like, I want to dissociate. I want to run away. I don't want to be in the present moment. But your toddlers need you to help them regulate. And if you come back into your body and keep working on yourself, and I'm going to give you a few tools right now that may help you, you can begin to break the pattern. You're not a crazy parent. You're not a bad parent, but you are a traumatized little girl who feels as if she's back in her crazy, chaotic childhood. And so she disappears from her body. Her toddlers go even more crazy because they're like, where's mommy? And they don't get what they need from you in the present moment.
Yeah.
So because you're in my institute, that I always talk about the present moment. We can only begin healing right here, right now. So the next time you're with your toddlers, that's the present moment. And then the next time, if you missed that time, is the next present moment. So we're going to use the next present moments to practice what I'm about to say. So the first thing we have to do is realize that you are not a little girl anymore. You're actually quite a grown-up, quite an adult. So you don't have to run away like you did in childhood. So first you have to come back into the time zone of the present. Like, oh, okay, I'm not a little girl. I'm not a little girl. But the second thing you need to do is you need to take care of that little girl and say, okay, I'm here for you, little girl. I'm here. I'm the adult now. You're not alone. Because you see, your little girl was so alone watching her parents go crazy. She didn't have help. So now you need to help her in the moments when your toddlers come home, when your toddlers are acting out. And the third thing is you need to keep repeating, my toddlers are not my parents. My toddlers are not my parents, right? So this will ground you. So these are the things you do internally. Now, what do you do with them to help them? Right? You can only help them after you've helped yourself. If you're not regulated, you cannot help them. You know that. So now once you've done the inner work, you're a little bit calmer. Now you need to look at your toddlers as these little beings who really just want the mother to soothe them and either laugh with them, play with them, or just contain them, right? Just soothe them. But they need the mother to know that they're not bad, they're not monsters, they're not evil, they're not troubling you. If they read on your face that you're looking at them like they're monsters, that's going to freak them out more because they're seeing you be scared of them. So now they're like, oh my goodness, my caregiver is looking scared. So I'm a bad person and now I'm scared of myself because if she's so scared of me, I must be a really scary monster. So you're looking at them as if they're scary because you're looking at them as if they're your parents. So that's what's making them more scared. So I saw you become really still. So what resonated with you right now?
What you were saying, I remember myself from some time ago, and they would definitely see a scared person in front of them. I know that they do not see the scared person anymore. They just see their mom who comes to them with some sort of feelings. And I'm very open to them. Sometimes I'm like, God, it's too much for mommy at the moment. But I am really honest and I feel like I'm being true with them.
Okay, so here's the thing. But when you just said to them, mommy feels like this is too much for mommy, that is you telling them you can't handle it. They're too much and you're scared.
Yeah, I get it.
It's a different way of saying it. So at least you're saying it. I think what you're trying to say is before you just were terrified. Now you're trying to be authentic and you're in your body, but you're still in your body like a little girl.
Yeah.
Now we have to go to the next step of being in our body like an adult. So good progress. But now you're just telling them what you were feeling. Before you were just feeling it and not realizing it. But that still makes them feel unsafe because they are not too much for you. They're too much for the little girl in you. But they're not too much for the adult in you. Because if I was to act out right now, Agatha, and if I was to cry, I can guarantee you, you will come to me like the most beautiful mother because I don't remind you of your chaotic parents. Because they remind you of your parents, you're not being a parent to them. You're being a little girl, a co-toddler, little older than them, telling them, be quiet because I can't handle you. And that message for a toddler is the worst message in the world because that makes them feel so bad. So here's what we need to do. We need to really soothe ourselves in the moment and see them for the helpless beings that they are, like you were. When you were a little girl, you wanted more than anything to be played with, to be laughed with, to be enjoyed, to be, loved and accepted. You need to channel that energy for yourself and for them. That's the energy you never had as a child. Your parents never gave you that energy. They never gave you the energy of, little girl, you're safe. Little girl, you're accepted. Little girl, you're vulnerable. I see you. So when you can give that to yourself, only then will you be able to give it to your children. What's coming up for you right now?
I had an epiphany in me that I have never once came to the situation with my children from this position of a grown-up.
Yes.
Yeah. It was, at best, it was an equal.
Right, right. You were looking at them. You were looking at them as your playmates. Hi, guys. Can we please take care of each other? Can you take care? Can you take care of me? I mean, I just got goose flesh when you said you just had an epiphany because I felt it. You are begging your little children to take care of you. You're begging them to please.
Bradley, give me a break. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what you're communicating to them is you are bad, you're driving me crazy, it's your fault. And guess what? You have the power to change. And that makes them feel really unsafe because they don't have the power to change, because they don't even know they should change. They thought they're being just themselves. So we're communicating to them in all sorts of ways that they are not good enough, because you're too scared. And that comes from your past. But the first step, Agatha, is for you to realize that you are growing up and you can take care of your little girl, and your little toddlers don't need to take care of you anymore.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Like, I can be this mother. Like, I can do this.
Oh, you
Because,
can so do this.
Yeah. I think my motto for last year and a half was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. It's too much. It's too much for everyone. It's too much for them. It's too much for me. I mean, toddlerhood, Jesus. I mean, it's too much. And yeah, because I was belittling myself very much, Yeah. But then how would I know not to belittle myself?
Exactly. I mean, I have rivers of goose flesh just as you're talking, because I can see the light bulbs going off in you right now, that you're realizing how, number one, you were expecting your children to take care of you. You were begging them to be nicer to you and to be calmer so that you could feel safe. And how you've been so hard on yourself, and that's why you're hard on them. And the last thing is, you don't realize that you are capable of taking care of your little girl so that your children feel safer. Your children are not the problem. It's this loud noise inside you that is screaming, alarm, alarm, fire, fire. Because when you were young with your parents, it was like a fire going off every day.
But see, now when we first started talking, there was a part in me that wanted to say that I'm very much aware that my children are not the problem. But saying something and actually believing, yes, there are two different things. And I just realized that now, that in theory, I feel my kids are not the problem. That's just their developmental stage. They have to be this way. They should be. I appreciate even them this way, But this was something, I guess, that I was saying to myself. So, not living this, not embodying this situation. I think, yeah. Oh, God. Yeah, so it was like a separate concept. So this concept of my children not being the problem was right here, and there was me.
Where they were the total problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the one big takeaway you're taking away, Agatha? Tell all of us parents so you can help us all.
Even though I did not get emotional education, how to be a grown-up in a tough situation, now that I am, I can absolutely make myself the grown-up that I want to be and that my children need to have.
Oh, Agatha.
Yeah, absolutely.
I truly believe you're going to do it. You're such an emotionally attuned, aware, intelligent woman. I mean, you have just blown me away. And you just needed to connect the dots even more. And now you have so much to work on in the next moment that you're with your toddlers. Remember, it's only going to be in the moment that you can show up differently. So start right now. Don't think about the past or the future. The moment is now. Thank you so much for joining us, Agatha.
Yes, speaking to you. Thank you.
Hearing from both the parents today, I was really struck by how hard it is for us to release the past and enter the now. And our children, you see, I always call them the gurus of the present moment. They need us to attune to who they are in the present moment. But because of our past, either our guilt or our own childhood baggage, our own judgment from our parents, whatever the reason, we are hostage to our past and abducted from the present moment. Our children then feel the disconnect and they reflect that disconnect back to us, which then, strangely enough, takes us back into the past and we repeat the dysfunctional cycle. In my book, The Parenting Map, I have this really beautiful chapter about how to release the past and enter the now. I'm going to read a short excerpt. I always remind myself and other parents that the only moment that is relevant is the one we are in right here, right now. In this moment, we get to rewrite our narratives and begin anew. This moment in the now is a new one when we can start fresh. The past is no longer here. And even when we remember it, we need to remind ourselves that it is contaminated by time and imprecise memories. We will never remember the past exactly the way it happened. For this reason, there is no point in regurgitating the past over and over. The only way the past is relevant is in how it influences our present moment. The only way we can move away from the past is by pausing, by asking, am I in the past right now or in the present moment? And I always tell parents, and this is a reminder for all of us right now, follow your children's lead, for they, more than any other human, are always in the present moment. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and received its many teachings, don't forget to subscribe and share it with those you love. And I will see you on the next episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.